Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another video. Alhamdulillah, I'm feeling much better. Out here walking again. Such a beautiful night. It's very chilly now during the winter months, and it gets even more chilly if it rains. It's like winter brisk if it rains. I don't know what it is about the rain on the ground and the wind mixing with it that makes like a brisk cold wind, but that weather is no joke, and you can get really sick over here if you don't cover yourself. When you first come here, you'll see people walking around with t-shirts and shorts and dresses in the winter because it doesn't feel much like a winter, especially if you're coming from like colder countries in the wintertime. Feels like nothing. So it looks strange to see people walking around with coats and heavy, sweaters and things like that. But yeah, once you live here for a while and you spend a couple of summers here from the extreme heat, and then it drops down to the cooler weather, you'll quickly understand that you can get sick. You can get pneumonia and you can get the flu. The type of chill exists in the UAE that gets in your bones. It sets in. So you get really sick. So just be careful for all of you coming here. Don't take the weather as a joke. Same thing happened actually in Yemen. The Yemenis used to say, your face can get paralyzed by the cold. It's subtle cold. It's cold that seeps into your bones and in your face. And some people from the West, they didn't take heed to it, and their faces would get like paralyzed from the mucus or whatever would happen to them. They would get really stiff and stuffy due to them not taking precautions with the weather. So y'all want to be careful. But tonight's video is going to be basically story time. It's a short story, but important at the same time, because I want to give some advice to those who are tulab al-ilm, talibat. So, I have a Telegram group for sisters who want to come to the UAE, or those who are already here in the UAE. We conduct meetups, and the group holds discussions on different topics regarding the UAE, from healthcare to childcare, school fees to, where to shop, things like that, visas. They talk about everything. So we have another group, a second group, just for like gatherings, for those who actually live here and they want to, meet the sisters in the community. So alhamdulillah, Allah blessed us to create a nice group so that when the sisters come, they'll have people to receive them. They'll have gatherings to go to, meetups to go to. It's a really, really, really nice group. So one time, a group member contacted me and asked if someone could join the group. This particular sister was coming from, the one who wanted to join was coming from Saudi Arabia. And when the sister contacted me and asked could this person join, she gave an entire muqaddimah, like an introduction to this person, who she is, what group she has. I don't know her, so it made no difference to me. Who her husband is, and the sister herself, the one who wanted to join, gave the group member the information about her husband, who her husband was, and who he is, and where he studies in Saudi, and who he studied with. And so before I get into that, The message was she wanted to join the group in order to meet Salafiyet. She just wanted to meet Salafi sisters, right? So I'm like, okay, fine, of course, I mean, no problem. But when she started to do the introduction for the sister, I'm like, okay, this is not sounding like someone who just wants to meet Salafiyet. This sounds like someone who's looking for some followers, some notoriety. We need to know who she is before she blesses us, honors us with her presence. So that's the vibe I was getting from the muqaddimah, from the introduction. So once she sent the sister, the group member, her husband's introduction, who he was, where he studied, who he studied with, and the verbiage that she used was, and he's been giving dawah longer than such and such a student. Before that student was given dawah, I'm like, okay, no. This here is a problem. Because why on earth does this individual who claims she only wants to meet Salafiyat is raising her husband and belittling another student who everyone knows? I'm like, yeah, that's a red flag. And this person wants more than just to know Salafiyat. So what I said was this. Because like I said, I've been, mashallah, I've been in Dawah a long time. Not officially, but always doing some type of community involvement to a degree. So I said, all right, so listen, tell the sister this. Tell her it's a general group right? And tell her that she can't call to herself. It's not an Islamic group, it's just a group just for sisters to get together. Tell her she can't call to herself and she can't call to her husband. So the sister told her what I said, and she did what? Backed off. She no longer wanted to be a part of the group, which exposes people's intention, you know? You just gotta know how to uncover what people actually want through asking certain questions, especially if you're skilled at observing certain behaviors from individuals. So I thought that was very interesting. But I already knew, based off of her introduction, what kind of person she was, and that she basically wanted to join so that she can gain followers before she moved to the UAE, which was very, very, I mean, that's typical. You find people, Allahumma musta'an, especially during this day and time, anyone who is seeking talib al-ilm, they are upon talib al-ilm, and their wives, Allahu musta'an, Allahu musta'an. It's not everybody, but la ilaha illallah. That's all I'm gonna say. It's a shame. That's all I'm gonna say. How the sisters behave is sad. But that brings me to the advice for the person who's seeking knowledge. Like I told you, as relates to myself, I went to go to Yemen, and that was the beginning of my studies. I didn't stop after Yemen. I continued. I continued to study. Right? No, a person should not go to study in order to become a scholar, because an alim is endorsed by another alim. And those who became ulama weren't seeking to become from the ulama. They weren't seeking it. It's Allah raised them because of their sincerity. So my advice is that anyone who is seeking talib al-ilm, and this is for every Muslim, whether you are a full-time student or a part-time student, everyone, especially if you are a person that's ascribing to Salafiyya, you have to study. You have to learn. Like Imam Ahmed rahimahullah said, from the cradle to the grave, you learn forever, right? And just in case those of you who don't know, leaving off knowledge and not learning and studying is from the Nawaqid al-Ashara, the 10 things that nullify your Islam. Because you have obligations that you need to know in order to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have rights that you have to give to people. So you have to be very, very careful in neglecting knowledge, and you have to be very careful when it comes to your intention. So the purpose of seeking knowledge is to worship Allah upon knowledge and to remove ignorance from yourselves. And you, of course, sincerity. Without sincerity, then it won't be accepted from you. You know? And Shaitan will play with you. Shaitan play with you anyway. It doesn't matter because Shaitan wants us to go to the fire, whether it's from the bab of khair or the bab of shar. It doesn't matter. Whichever path, he can get you to go to the fire by, he'll choose that for you. He'll work on you. So if he sees that you're someone who's trying to seek knowledge, then he'll trick you into making your intentions to show off, to have deceit, to want to be noticed, to want to put yourself forward before it's time, to try to compete with your brothers, to try to tear them down, work against them, and things of that nature. All things that are void of blessings, right? Whatever Shaitan can do in order to deter you from getting that reward and even into the fire because of the path you've taken. It's a path of khair, but because of his playing about with you and you're not being conscious, or you're aiding Shaitan and playing into his plan, it will be a means for you. This blessed path of learning the religion will be a means for you to enter the fire due to your intention or your neglect or your heedlessness, your intentions changing, for the worse, not being sincere for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wanting the people to know who you are instead of learning for Allah. And of course we already know the bab of shar that he tries to get us to enter the fire by. But that's what any bab of good, whether it be from sadaqah, whether it be from learning the Quran, showing off. Anything, the intentions are so important that it should be rectified, it should be paid attention to, it should constantly be monitored. So that brings me also to say that Talib al-Ilm, seeking knowledge and disseminating or displaying what you know, is not restricted to giving a class. Because you embark on the path of Talib al-Ilm, it does not mean that you now have to get a microphone, that you now need to take a seat, you need to come and compete, or even help in da'wah in the way that is already being disseminated. We need those who have knowledge, who have went to study, to mix with the normal everyday people. Because the layman, the everyday person, needs an example of knowledge. And if you benefited from your knowledge, then inshallah you'll be from those who are righteous. So that everyday people need examples of someone who is righteous amongst them. We also need to enter, to aid in different societal fields, such as tabibul nafs, right? Like mental health. We need to lab in those fields. And I'll give you an example. You have those, mashallah, in the Muslim lands, people who they wanted to study Sharia, right? Just common everyday Kuwaitis, Emiratis, Qataris, even Egyptians. They go to Azhar, they study the Sharia, you know. Some people will study Hadith. It's something that they loved. It's something that they grew up upon. Their parents cultivated them upon that. So they wanted knowledge of it, you know? And they benefit the society. They're everyday people. And you know why they're everyday people? Because when something happens, for example, in the society, or they hear some type of kufr and shirk, and I'll give you an example, they're able to spot it. You need everyday people who are not behind a chair or in a library in a classroom somewhere teaching, giving lectures. We need regular people to mix in the society. That really only benefits in a Muslim country. In a non-Muslim country, of course, the regular the regular society don't really benefit from it. So I get why Westerners who go to seek knowledge kind of get the idea that you need to be in the spotlight, you need to go back and teach, because that's the only example that you have. But I'm here to tell you, in the Muslim world, you have regular people who go study, and I got sidetracked, but I remember visiting an Emirati sister here, and we got into the conversation about different deviated sects. And she was like, SubhanAllah, we didn't know anything about this stuff. She said, we didn't know about Ibaldi, we didn't know about Sufi. Now she's mentioning these sects herself. And the reason why she's mentioning them is because there were certain TV personalities who were from the Ibaldis, the Omani they're from the Khawarij, Omani citizens, Omani brand of Khawarij, right? And they were on television and they were disseminating their beliefs, but in a discreet way. And then there were also TV personalities who were Sufi, right in front of the people, and they were disseminating their poison. But those from amongst the learned individuals in the society were able to catch it and to warn against it, right? They were able to warn against it, mashallah. But she said that the comment, she was like, we didn't even know what that was. Why? Because the society is on sunnah by default. The society in UAE, Sharia doesn't have the upper hand, and nor do the other deviated sects. So sunnah is so common that when they hear something different, they're like, well, what is that? They're not on alert because they're not mixing with people of deviation with all these different beliefs where they have to be on guard. But alhamdulillah, for those who studied, they were able to catch it and inform the people and refute these individuals. And then their shows got taken off, you know, offline and off of the stations and things like that. So I say all that to say, when you go to a Muslim country, you get to see how vast knowledge can be utilized and the benefit that you get when you are just a regular person, a talibul ilm, someone who's learned, but you get hands-on experience dealing in everyday life, and you're sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not trying to be known. You don't need everybody to know where you studied, because it helps you more with your sincerity when nobody knows you. And you're just implementing the religion, teaching your family, implementing yourself, applying your knowledge to your everyday life that you're living in the society. It helps you maintain your ikhlas more. Don't think that, oh, well, what's the point of going to study if I'm not going to be in front of people and teaching a class? That's a trick from shaitan, and that comes from being in the West, because that's like the highest form of Islamic notoriety, is being in front of a camera and being in front of a microphone. And anyone who goes to study, that's what he aspires to be, in front of everybody. But when you're in an Islamic society, it's a complete society. You're not restricted. You're not restricted. Your Islam is not restricted. So you don't have to box yourself off and let shaitan play with you to constantly run to the microphone to want to be in front of everybody. your knowledge, your piety, your application of the religion is going to benefit you when you are in actualizing what you've learned in everyday life. And the everyday Muslim needs that representation. And alhamdulillah, there's much representation like that in this society. Alhamdulillah. They actually know what a religious person looks like. Because you got, like I said, everyday people who have gone to go study and they are benefits for their family. You know what I mean? They're not in a masjid giving a class. Rather, their family members will call them on the phone and say, oh, my brother, he studied here. Oh, yeah, my brother, he's mutawwa. He studied. So I'm going to ask my brother about this particular mas'ala, this issue. Right? That's very common. It's very common, mashallah. It was an Egyptian sister that I work with. She said her husband, when someone goes to study in Azhar, they be like, I'm Azhari, right? I know that they can identify kufr. Oh, no, that's kufr. Oh, no, that's shirk. I'm Azhari, right? That's where I studied at. But they're engineers, right? They're in different fields of work, but they know their belief. Same thing as Sardiya, same. They know their belief, but they're regular everyday people. That's needed. You need regular everyday people in the society who understand different masail in the religion, where they can help their co-workers, they can help their family members. That's the purpose. You learn, you teach those who are qareeb, qabla ba'id, right? And for the sisters that go study, it's for the brothers too. Make sure that your family knows and is knowledgeable first before you run out and try to teach the rest of the world. That's mukhalif to the sunnah, actually. Your family comes first. I remember when I was in America, um, you know, it's to lab. I used to try to get along with some of the Tulab's wives. Of course, because like I said, I was in the mix, or I'm in the middle. Husbands are connected to Tulab. They threw me in the mix. So, of course, you're going to meet wives, right? You have people come over to your house, you go over their houses, things like that. We even hosted, yeah, mashallah, we hosted people. That's all I want to say. Because I don't care about names. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. So it's insignificant who it was. But mashallah, you get a chance to meet people's wives, deal with them, befriend them. And at one time, of course, I'll try to give advice. And I'm me. I'm myself. I've always been the same person. Try to give advice, give insight, have conversations on minhaj and things like that with the women. And then they try to pull you in. Like, well, Rakaya, why don't you just, you know, help out with the studies at the masjid or with the classes? And I'm like, no, because I did that already when I was young. Like I said, I got thrown into that when I was 19 years old, way too early, coming from Yemen, had no business, didn't desire it, didn't want it, and Allah musta'an, because of someone's ego, they threw me in that position. And whenever someone is pushed in a position like that, then Allah aids them. Alhamdulillah, Allah aided me, but at the same time, Allah helped me out of that situation as well. And I'm so grateful for that. So they used to try to get me to come and help and say, look, it'll be just like back in the day, you know, when you were teaching classes before. And I'm like, I'm not interested because I already know how it goes. I don't want to. And I said, I'm teaching my children. They have the most right to be taught. And that's what I did. I made sure that I put that time in with my kids. And I taught them the things that they need to know, especially while we were in the States and we had to fight that society. I had to warn my son and my daughters about the tricks of the kuffar when they went to school, about how science carries certain beliefs so that you don't absorb the answers that they're teaching you in the course. Just take it as questions and answers. Let it roll off your back. Don't absorb it. I had to warn my son, had to warn my children, and give them armor to help them. That was my main focus. And I know that when you're involved in dawah, the whole community is your focus. You got to prepare lessons. You have to deal with, the stuff that goes on, concerns, um, just preparing classes and just whatever. You know how, for those of you who are pursuing Talib M and you are going to be in that position, you're going to be busy. And a lot of times you don't have time for your family. And I didn't want that. I knew the dangers that were facing my children as relates to their psychological well-being when it comes to the kuffar. So I had to protect them, help them, and aid them and give them some tools while we were trying to weather the storm of getting out of the United States to make hijrah. Of course, we've been to multiple countries, but in between, you got to do what you have to do, you know? So that's my advice. Be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come to the Muslim lands with your knowledge. Get into society. Or if you're in the West, ask Allah to, you know, expand your brain so that you can benefit the Muslims in other areas. You don't have to sit and teach a class. You're needed in other areas. In all factions of life, you're needed. You understand? Guidance is needed in so many areas that you can apply your knowledge to. You can apply your expertise to. And it doesn't have to look like a dictator, a lesson, preaching. It doesn't have to look like that. If you're sincere to Allah, then you'll think of some things. You'll look around and see what's ailing the people and utilize your knowledge and what you have and possess in order to help in those areas, to develop things, resources, programs, whatever. And if you don't want to do that, then come to the Muslim world and mix with the people. You know what I mean? And benefit the common people. I like being on the ground. I like mixing with the people because I learn and I grow. And that's another thing. When you're not sincere, I've noticed a person who only seeks knowledge just for notoriety, or he is a quoter, he's a relayer, it stays like that. That's all he gets. He remains, or she remains, a quoter, a relayer. They don't grow in wisdom. They stay the same year after year. And that's a punishment in and of itself. You don't grow when you get blinded. You know? You don't grow. You don't grow. You don't benefit from the knowledge that you have. And benefit is not just, getting a relationship with the sheikh. You know what I mean? We doing telelinks. We're giving classes. We're building masajid. That's not, I'm talking about self-development. There's a certain growth that you're supposed to have every single year. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to gain more wisdom. You're supposed to gain more knowledge. And there's knowledge that is gained from books, and then knowledge that is gained from hands-on experience, from implementing that knowledge from those books in everyday life. If that's not your condition and you can't find any difference in you, in what you see, and how you've grown, then that's a sign that you should reevaluate your intentions and what you're doing, you know? So yeah, that's what I have to say. That's my advice. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. And Talib M is a part of Hijrah as well. I mean, you have to study no matter where you're at. So keep on studying for those who are on that path. Don't ever give up. But make sure your intentions are for Allah all the time. You're always sincere. Check yourself. Analyze yourself. We read these things from the Salaf. you know, but it's easier said than done. A person talks about it, they throw the quotes around, but you don't see them, you don't see the people acting by it. And that's a tragedy. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I appreciate you listening and tuning in as usual. And inshallah, we'll see you all in the next video. Don't forget Hijrah, man-day sacrifice. Ma'asalama.